it's a little off center. There we go. There we go. Now it looks like a real
professional.
Yeah. All right. So here we are back for episode 21 of 10PATX Chats. Before we get into it, we're here with Amanda Loewen. But before we get into it, sponsors 10PATX apparel on Amazon. Drink Action with a K. Drinkaction.com. Tremendous coffee, tremendous turmeric and hemp product. Use 10PATX for 15% off. And then lastly, on it, use 10PATX for 10% off. Oh, and the451project.com for my latest book. Amanda, you are visiting us from Portland.
Yes.
How was your trip in so far?
It's been really good. I surprised my brother for his birthday, so it was kind of a treat for me to obviously see him, and then selfishly be able to come here and get some training. So,
now, your brother Peter?
No. My brother Steven.
Steven,
yeah.
Okay. So Steven lives here in Austin?
Yes, he does.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Okay.
New Braunfels area, but yeah, basically.
Okay, cool. Because I was confused about Peter because Peter was telling me he's like ready to come on down here and everything, and I was like, oh, is your brother? Who is it? Is your boyfriend? Who is it? Like, come on down, bro. Come on down. Bring you with, But so you're a new 10 Planet.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you got your black belt elsewhere first, right?
Yes, yeah. So I trained at Straight Glass Gym in Portland, Oregon for about 10 and a half years or so, and then made the good decision to go to 10 Planet, which I should have done it a lot sooner, but that's, yeah.
What was it that drew you to Phil Schwartz and 10 Planet Portland?
I've known Phil for quite a few years, and then just kind of being able to go over and train with all of his guys and gals. It's just very community based and so welcoming, and just the amount of knowledge that they have there was just tremendous. So
sitting with I'm getting to sit down with Phil and talk to him. He's one of those guys that similar to myself, similar to Curtis, similar to the vibe that a lot of people now are getting around the gym. It's just we found our church group.
Yes.
People want to downplay religion and things like that, and I understand why. But the value that you get out of the experience of going, I've always found that, because I'm not a church goer, but I always found the other aspects to be important. But we get those aspects kind of with what we're doing. And Phil was like, people say we're cult-like, but we're a cult of people that are trying to move forward and trying to get better.
Absolutely, yeah. That's definitely the way it is.
Yeah, and I mean, you've been in the game for now you've been in the game for over a decade.
Yeah.
What is it like being, one of a handful of female black belts in the world? Well, not, that kind of gets further down the line. But what was it like coming up at a time where there weren't as many people doing what you're doing now? I mean, surely talking to Jamie, she got to roll with you last night. She was like, well, it's the first time she rolled with a female black belt. She was like, wow, this is a, that's really cool. It's really inspiring to someone. It's like, oh, everyone gets value out of seeing someone like them doing something great. So what was it like along this journey being this trailblazer in a sense?
I don't know about trailblazer, but so when I first started, I feel like, a lot of probably the women that first started as well, they didn't have a fundamentals or foundations program. And it was, when I started Jiu Jitsu, it was just all right, you take this class and then you roll afterwards. I had no idea what Jiu Jitsu even was really. When I had gone to the gym, I thought everyone was doing karate, and I was like, I should probably do karate too, just to get in shape and stuff. And definitely fell in love with Jiu Jitsu and kind of the problem solving aspect of it. And I am definitely a very stubborn human being. So I rolled for the first time and I just got basically just trashed. And I was like, all right, I'm going to go back so that I don't get trashed all the time. And just kind of continued from there. And I was going to school full time and working, and then just slowly quit everything. And I was like, I just want to do jiu-jitsu. So I stopped going to college. I quit work, and I was like, I'm going to do whatever it takes to just do this all the time. So that's
the journey that it seems like we all end up being on at some point.
Yeah.
We eventually get to the point where we're just this is what am I doing with all this other stuff?
Yeah.
I don't really want to do all this stuff. I don't, what was it that that attracted you to martial arts? So you were in college at the time. You were in your early 20s.
Yeah. I started when I was 20. Jiu-jitsu when I was 24, 25 or so. I'm 33 now. So, I just just like the body movement, and just that like it never stops. Like you can always get better, and you can always simplify the things that seem really complicated. And then I also liked, being able to compete and challenge myself personally, and the fact that it's, in some cases a very like individual sport, but you can't get better on your own. Like it requires a team.
Yeah.
So I was very attracted to that. And then just like the humility, the aspect of like, it doesn't matter like where you go, like you just straight up get humbled. Like coming here and just like, oh, I just like get wrecked. That's awesome. It's like always like trying to take away something and learn as much as possible. And so that I can go back home and like, deliver like hopefully new things to my students as well. So that's like really important to me is, not just competing, but like I want my students to be better than I am.
Yeah, of course. So. Right. That's I want my kids to be better than me. I want my students to be better. It's the same, it's the only way that progress happens is that the people that you're teaching get better than you are at one point, right?
Yeah.
But what I like what you said too is the individual aspect, but with the team, is that there's not a lot of, like I play football. What did you play growing up? Any sports?
Like I was a very like amateur soccer player, like basically through elementary school. Like I wasn't able to play any sports in high school. So I don't consider myself like athletic by any means.
So like my experience was I played them all, right? And then but like football was the one that I wanted to pursue to as far as I could go with it. But at some point you're not allowed to keep, like you said, you're allowed to, in this thing, you're allowed to keep learning and keep finding new things. And it never gets boring because you're always learning something there's always a new depth to go to find the information, the submission, the principles. There's that thing going off in your head that like, oh, I'm learning something new, that exciting feeling. And with all these other sports that aren't individual, but then this also has a team aspect, the ones that aren't individuals that at some point you're done.
Yeah.
I mean, we could do this till we're 60, theoretically.
Yeah. And, it's like your coaches, they give you that fundamental foundation, so like for the most part, like everyone has like some of the same concepts, but then you're able to like grow and like develop your own jiu-jitsu. It'd be very boring if everyone like, trained like, no offense to the Mendez brothers, like I love the Mendez brothers, but it's like, I feel like some gyms try to like recreate themselves amongst their students and, maybe 1 out of 100. But I think that's the beautiful thing about jiu-jitsu is that like no role is going to be the same,
Isn't that something that you might maybe as an outsider, now an insider of 10th Planet, is that something that attracted you to like 10th Planet? Is that one thing that I see out of it, the creativity and the structure of the organization? Eddie's at the top. We call him Eddie. Yeah. We don't call him the professor. We call him Master Eddie. We show him the respect.
Yeah,
but there's also a piece of who Eddie is at a fundamental level that allows such creativity beneath him, because he doesn't make you feel like an idiot. He doesn't make you feel like he's up here.
Yeah.
And then so it's like, then he sees everyone forming their own thing. And they come back to him. They're like, check out this cool thing. And he's like, damn, like that is cool, man. Like, and so it's like, I feel, was there something about the culture that you maybe have a unique perspective on with your experience? And coming in.
Definitely. I remember when like I first started jiu-jitsu, I don't know, maybe like blue or purple belt. We had like a couple guys in the gym that, like experimented with some 10th Planet stuff. And we would talk like the biggest trash about them. They're like, that's like whatever, like lockdown bullshit. And I think a lot of it was because like, we didn't practice it. We didn't understand like what was happening. And so it's just like, I feel like for a good portion of the time, we're just like fucking 10th Planet bullshit. But then again, it's like you find those fundamental pieces as to like why the positions are working. We're like, oh, like this is not bullshit. Like this is like good jiu-jitsu. And then, like I grew up like more so like training initially in the gi. So we didn't do a lot of no gi stuff in the beginning. And then, I started to kind of fall in love with both. And I think it's important that, vice versa, like if I take the gi off, like my game should translate just as well if like when I put the gi on.
Yeah.
So
I started at a gi school. I started at a really good gi school, Silver Fox Jiu Jitsu in Jersey. So I was there for 6 months. But when I had that same feeling instinctually about the gi and the no gi, which was like, because I came in 2016. So it was as 10th Planet was in this growth period that it's in now. I talked to Phil about it that before 2014 and the second Hoyler match. Yeah. And people still kind of look at 10th Planet like, what is that stuff? Like fluke, whatever. And I came in this time where no gi was clear because Gordon and those guys were just on and so I was like, I saw that the no gi was the more exciting, maybe like professional event. It was the faster pace. It was the
fluid and
not holding on to the lapels, and so what you're saying about your no gi and gi being the same, I felt that too. Like I kind of felt that early on, which was that it should all kind of be the same because this gi thing that we're wearing, I get it. It's useful. It's useful to know how to use it. All that stuff. Yeah. But I also was like, if this is about self-defense, right? So that was my perspective on it. But it's interesting to hear you hear that like people thought it was just dumb. Yeah, it was because it's something we don't understand. It's something that's different. It's something that's outside the norm. Because I hear the same thing in the football space. Someone comes along with a new offense, people are like, that's a college offense. That's not going to work in the pros.
Exactly. Yeah.
And now the best coach is Andy Reid, and one of the best coaches, and he just won us his first Super Bowl. But he integrated a lot of those spread college concepts in his own way. And so to see, to hear that kind of story and then, to be on the, to hear that is interesting. What, from a coaching perspective, how long have you been coaching and what is kind of your main philosophies?
I think I've been coaching I started in 2009 for quite a long time.
You knew right away that you wanted to, this was your life.
Yeah, I don't know, something about it. And I may be the type of person that like, once I start something, like I just want to follow through with it.
My parents never let me quit any sport kind of thing.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I really fell in love with it, and I like coaching. I think it's there's just something like real special, and I still get like I don't know, like those first time vibes where like you're watching a class and you're just like seeing people move. And you're like, my gosh, like those people didn't know how to shrimp or they didn't know how to like do any like bodily movement, and like now they're like rolling or they're like exhibiting like really good jiu-jitsu like that. It's just like something really special about that. So being a coach and being able to like give those people like tools and confidence and stuff to like to deal with like everyday stuff is like I love that so much.
The confidence, that's what we're really selling.
Yeah. Like
it's not like, because when you're talking about them getting better at jiu-jitsu, it's nice. It looks great. It might help them at some point in an altercation, something they have to deal with. But like what you're giving them is so much more valuable than jiu-jitsu.
I don't think, I mean, obviously it's hard to like talk to people, and I don't really have many friends that don't train, because I have a very hard time like having conversations with people like outside of jiu-jitsu. Like I don't know what to talk to you about really.
There's a certain understanding that we have, just the experience, shared experience.
And I feel like we mentioned religion earlier, but I feel like like a Mormon or Jehovah's Witness, where I'm just like, I want to tell you the good news about jiu-jitsu kind of thing. Because there's something like, as cheesy as it sounds, just like really special. And I talked about this earlier today, but like everybody that I've met that like, despite like, doesn't matter how old they are, like once they start training, they always wish that they had like started sooner. Like I wish that, just like, God damn, like the kids that are able to come in, like the parents that, bring their 4 and 5-year-olds in, like that is so neat, and like, maybe like the kid doesn't stick with it forever for like whatever reason, but maybe they had that experience and they'll come back to it, or you see the kids that stick with it. Like I rolled with some 13-year-old. I was like, dude, this kid just tried to heal him. Like what? Like
Yeah.
this is phenomenal. It's amazing. So yeah.
I came into the game as the leg lock stuff was coming in, right?
Yeah, I had no idea.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like I feel like so many people like make the excuse like they get caught in a leg lock. They're like, oh, that's that's just like a whatever. I didn't know. I'm just like, no, that's also a part of the game. You know. So.
Yeah, when I came here was like I said, like I came at
out of that breakthrough time, that very interesting time.
Yeah, I came to the game at that time, which was things right. Oh, I wish I started younger. I wish I did this younger. I wish I did whatever. But I take solace in the fact that I came at the right time to see a lot of interesting things come to the surface. So the game, from the time I was a white belt, we were learning the stuff that the guys at the top were doing, and then I got to see and understand that the system that we're creating isn't just set in stone. It's if we see something over here that's really good, we're going to bring it into this gym, and that was a fascinating part that I think that Eddie cultivates, and then every school then cultivates as well in their own way over time. And to see the kids that are doing the heel hooks and leg locks and all that kind of stuff, for someone who's been in the game, like, see that it's like whoa. Like I'm sure it's like whoa, because it was like when you started, it was the forbidden thing.
Dude, I feel like at my old gym, like it's still forbidden. Like
really?
there's I'm gonna like make sure I don't say any negative. Many like negative comments. There's still like a lot of folks that I really love and appreciate there, but there are some things that just like that they just don't do. And I think it's like gyms.
It's an ideology.
There shouldn't be like jiu-jitsu. Like there's no secrets in jiu-jitsu. Like it's just like free information, and I feel like it's at 10 Planets just like, oh, like you have this information, like, well, I want that information. Like we share, we trade, and we're not afraid to like cross train. It's just like I want to train with the best, and like I know everyone else wants to train with the best, and like
one thing that's very telling about Eddie and that permeates throughout the system is that, and because of the jiu-jitsu, because of the sport, the nature of the sport is that like you can't have an ideology about it. Like it's in a world that's so much more divided at this time. It's like, where's the information? Where's the information? Just give me the information, and I'm gonna come to some conclusion on it. And on here, that's I think the thing that the truth part of it, right? Like, and again, the church aspect, like. We're at a place where we know what the truth is. So and so over there, he's the best. I mean, I can't. Gabe, Gabe.
Dude, Gabe's so good.
Yeah.
He just like very politely just like crushed me.
He's not that polite with me because I got a loud mouth. But no, man, I'll be messing around. I'll be talking like, nah, dude, you're not gonna. I just like he taps me over and over and over again. He's a smaller guy, but like. No doubting how good Gabe is.
You can't, and that's the nice thing. And it's like I know like a million people have said this, but it's like you can't lie when you're on the mat. Like you can't like pretend to be good. It's like some of some folks like attributes like may make up for their technique on occasion, but like when you get tired and you are left with whatever jiu-jitsu you actually possess, and like that's the beautiful part of it.
And now I was saying about your coaching earlier, like just like. As a coach, when you approach a class, right? How do you create a lesson? Like, what are your goals, and maybe like a daily lesson? Like principally, what maybe you're trying to get them to understand this one main thing within the move that you're teaching. Are you always, amplifying like this is why we're here? Just kind of stuff like that.
Yeah, I think. So as far as coaching goes, I think it's really important, especially for me, to make sure that I'm not just coaching for like. One person in the room, meaning like if I have a black belt and then like a mixture of like blues and purples, like I have to coach to the whole room. You know what I'm saying? Because
100%. I wanted to get you going on something because I didn't know where you'd go with this, but that's a really important perspective.
That's super important. Do the same for white belts, but just making things.
Know the room, like me.
Yeah. I definitely am not a comedian, but working on my Netflix special. But I think it's important to make sure that you're not giving like too much information. Like obviously like depends on the class, but some of my favorite classes to teach are like the foundations classes or the fundamentals, because like it's just like, to me, like that's like your bread and butter. Like that's the stuff that you have to have in order to have like all those advanced moves. Because if you don't understand the fundamentals, then it doesn't matter like the 27 like step technique. Like you're not going to be able to pull it off in a live roll unless you have like the core principles. So being able to like get that across to my students and make sure that they have like the posture and pressure first. Again, before like all the extra,
The posture and pressure first.
Yeah, so like posture is very important to me. Obviously pressure and stuff, and like my old coach and gym talked, a lot about like Hickson and like that connection. And I do think that is very important, as well as like being able to be like connected to that person or connected to that your partner. And especially in Nogi, I feel like you feel that more. Like you have to be able to like feel what your opponent is doing or your partner is doing in order to like give the appropriate time response.
Isn't it fascinating along the journey, as you start to realize that you feel someone doing something? Don't you feel something, you react. Not a lot of thinking involved. Like it's
crazy. I mean, I find myself like overthinking a lot. Even like while I'm competing, and I feel like those are like the tends to be like the worst performances I have, where it's like, because once you start thinking, then you're generally too late in the response, right? So just being able to like feel that movement and then just have your body like automatically respond is a really, really nice thing. So try to get that across to to my students and whatever we're going over. So like maybe I'm teaching mount bottom escapes. Like again, you can teach all of these movements, but if they don't have like the correct posture or framing system, then those, they're not going to be able to execute the proper escape. So, and
when the other thing about coaching a fundamentals class is you're getting back to your very basics too. So you're kind of just reminding yourself, okay, like and then you get to explain. Like, I have that experience sometimes out there when I'm explaining something to someone, and I'm like, like now I can tell you about it. Like,
selfishly too, which I'm sure you've experienced this. Like coaching will also help make your jiu-jitsu better because you tend to like excite people and they ask, particular questions, which like, you have to think of like a good response to that. And it keeps you honest too, because there's a lot of times, someone will ask me a question, maybe it's a field that like, I'm not like, so, like really, really good at. So, it keeps me honest. It's like, I actually don't know the answers to that question, which, makes me seek out the correct answers so that I can bring that back. So
not like we don't have enough resources to ask.
Exactly. So, making sure that you're not just like bullshitting your students. So it kind of comes back to like the truth, it's just like, you can't fake it.
One thing that came up while you were talking that thought was, how are you doing on the terminology in 10th Planet?
Oh shit. It's so hard.
Because as you're talking, I'm like, because as I get more responsibilities, get more classes, right? Like, man, I'm gonna find myself in a lot of positions where I'm like, hey, what's this called?
Dude, I have to ask my students sometimes. But there's been like so many positions where like I'll be in class and someone will explain something in like the 10th Planet terminology. I'll be like, oh yeah, I totally know what you're talking about. when they actually do the move, I'm like, oh, it's just that other thing. Like I called it, or like, I didn't even know it had a name for it, but I was just,
I was wrong. But I knew what you're talking about.
Like Coach Gabe taught like a reverse Alcatraz escape. I was like, I have no fucking idea like what that is. And then he did it. I was like, oh yeah, you just put your foot.
I know what we're talking about. I mean, it's a wild terminology, but it also has names that probably stick pretty well. I mean,
some of the stuff makes a complete sense, and then other things I'm like, I don't even know how they came up with these names.
Well, the thing is about Eddie is that like it's not like one person naming them all.
It's like a collective. It's just
weirdos. It's a collective of just like people that are gonna come up with weird names.
So that was 100% like the biggest difference is like, oh man, like I need to like learn all these things so that again I can like carry on like a good 10th Planet coaching vibe. But
I mean, and so now you're coaching a few classes, like a good handful of classes over there at 10th Planet. You're helping you and Phil basically.
Coach Phil, Coach Sam, Coach Kevin, Coach Mikey, and myself, and are trying to do as many classes as we can right now. Portland's a bit weird in the sense that like,
Yeah.
technically we're not open, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I mean,
So
if
when
you were open,
if we were open,
you would be coaching.
I would be coaching. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just check. Yeah. So I'm kind of getting around to the staff and you know all that kind of stuff. But yeah, it's good to know that you guys are being safe.
Yes.
That's the most important.
Yep.
Being safe.
Safety first in Portland.
And it's really wild how also you're competing at such a high level while you're being safe.
Yeah.
And I think people should be very inspired by the fact that you keep going out there, submission underground, and smashing while being safe.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Again, we're super safe and working. So, yeah, it's like that whole inside, outside, inside thing.
Yeah.
Because that makes a lot of sense. You know?
We have to put, as long as you're doing the jiu-jitsu in a tent outside.
While sitting down, because if you stand up,
it's just no stand up.
So that's why I pull guard, guys, because it's a lot safer.
But yeah, I mean, it just, again, like submission underground. What has been going on the last? You've been in 6 or 7 of them. You're telling me.
Yeah, so I think they started in 2016 maybe, and I actually had my first match against Liz Tracy, who was at 10th Planet, and so yeah, she was coached by Phil, so it was kind of like a.
You've known Phil a long time.
I've known Phil a long time. Yeah, and always held him in high regards. And Nathan Orchard, when he lived in Portland as well, he has his gym in Seattle now, so
they're being safe too.
They're being super safe up there as well. But yeah, I am trying to compete as much as possible. It still makes me like very nervous and
makes you feel alive.
Makes me feel alive, yeah. And then once I go out there, I'm like, oh yeah, it's just competing. It's just that thing. But again, like just like being humbled and kind of like bring it back to the basics. So.
But you got yourself a championship over there right now.
Yeah.
Humble champion.
Humble champion for sure. Yeah. And it's just like a lot of folks are just like, oh, it's just like MMA versus jiu-jitsu, but not always. Like I wrestled against Erin Hurley. I feel so bad for not remembering how to pronounce her last name, but she's a phenomenal black belt. So like it was really cool to compete against her, and then all these UFC champions and stuff too, because they train. They're not slackers, guys. For those of you who think, maybe they're not as good, but they definitely are. And they're
doing a lot of grappling.
Yeah, they're doing a ton of grappling. Like they're not in the UFC because like their striking is good. Like they're in there because they're very well-rounded people. So
yeah, I mean it's just getting into any of the MMA side of this gym and doing any of it, you realize how much you need there, like how much you need to bring into that.
Yeah.
And so I mean, part of the thing is that rightfully so, people are like, the MMA fighters got the MMA focus, but they've gotten there because they got the whole package.
Yeah, man. Like I did MMA as well, and I couldn't do it. I just am not like in love with striking. I feel like if I was in love with striking equally to jiu-jitsu, like maybe I could be good, but I'm also old and I just love jiu-jitsu. I'm
30 and
also getting punched in the face is like not that fun most of the time. You know what I mean? I
think I like it more than most people, but I don't think I like it that much.
Yeah.
Right. I look at it and I'm like, man, I have fun over here with the MMA. I have fun a little bit with, shadow boxing, doing drilling at home. The time commitment versus the amount of time that we want to spend over there is a lot.
Yeah.
And
it can be tough on the body too, because it's like that all aspect. You're doing striking and wrestling and jiu-jitsu and
I mean it's just we have to make those decisions where we're like, the jiu-jitsu is the one.
Yeah.
It's like people always said this about Brian Callen, right? They were like, when you're a kid, when he was younger, he'd focus on all these other projects. He'd always have something going on, right? Mm-hmm. And he was never focused on the one thing.
Yeah.
And to be as successful as we want to be at the one thing, it's like we have to focus on the one thing.
Yes.
Yeah. And I was talking about, I used the word trailblazer and stuff like that earlier with you, but like, I think it's really unique and really admirable as being someone who's come along during this, because now there's a lot of women getting into jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, which is great.
Yeah, which is really, I think it's great for the community. I think it's great for women in general.
And that's a sign, to me, of a healthy gym. Like, do you have women training with you? And do you have them like consistently, staying? Not everyone is going to stick with jiu-jitsu. Like, people fall off for various reasons, but if you just have like one girl training at your gym, like it could be better, and like maybe it's the coaching, maybe it's like the training partners, because that has like obviously a big play. Like, if you're not a good training partner, nobody's going to want to train with you. And there's certain people, like learning how to say no is really important as well. And you have to have like those conversations with people inside the gym too, because they may not know that nobody wants to train with them. People do, because, but yeah, I think as women, it's really important to use your voice and speak up. Yeah. Because like we're taught to be like really polite and respectful. And it's just like, no.
Yeah, not with everyone. Yeah, you don't. Yeah, there's. Jamie teaches me a lot about. She's my girlfriend's a social worker, and she knows about boundaries and things of that nature. So understanding boundaries, but then when you talk about it, the women, we have Mary, we have Simran now. Simran just moved over. Yeah. We have Lauren Sears.
Just
Jamie,
strong women.
Everyone. Yeah,
like not obviously just physically, but like mentally tough as well, and then they're also tough on the mat. Too,
Mary is definitely a ringleader of sorts in terms of being a really big leader on the women's team. That I don't think can be understated. In that, and then we also have Destiny, who's a coach here, who's a brown belt as well. So, but the group of women that we have, and then it just keeps growing from there. And Mary kind of really took on. She's a college athlete too. She trained. She was a pole vaulter or something in track and field, and you could just see the change in the gym, because these girls were really good training partners, had the attitude that brought more girls wanted to stay. Yeah. So it's been cool to watch, and then to watch a woman take on a role that I've seen men take on my teams throughout my life. Yes. In a really like strong way, and then create what we have now, which is probably 8 to 12 like really good girls. That's awesome. Which then grows into the 24. Yeah. And then more and more women are getting involved, which I think is everyone needs to get involved in this thing. So
they really do. Yeah.
When you get the women involved, then you get more kids involved too. And you get
partners and whatever else. Yeah.
So I mean, it's that journey that you've been on. I'm sure that what I was getting at too is that I'm sure you took a lot of lumps, like training hard around a lot, because I get that feeling out of Destiny's jiu-jitsu. Destiny's got gangster jiu-jitsu, and one day Jamie came home. She's like, she got my arm really good, and like I almost cried. Sorry, Jamie. But I was like, you know what? Destiny probably has had to go hard for a long time. Like it's part of her jiu-jitsu, because she was like, Destiny's really rough, and I was like, well, could you speak? I mean, what was like? Is that kind of part of the journey, was that you're going up against a lot of guys?
Yeah, I had like in the very beginning, I had a very small girl training partner named Michelle, and I think she ended up getting married, and then she had stopped training, but she was like much smaller than I am, so I can only imagine like how her journey was like before mine was, because like things were definitely a lot more rough,
Yeah. What I'm getting at is pretty gangster for having been doing this for as long as you have.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I have like a very like good ability to like be very comfortable in the uncomfortable, which is like kind of all of jiu-jitsu. It's like only one person can be comfortable at a time. If you both are comfortable, then like you're probably like slow rolling or advanced rolling or whatever you want to call it, but like somebody's trying to kill you, somebody's trying to like choke you or break your arm, and and like they're your friend at the same time usually. So so
someone's not enjoying this experience as much as the other.
Exactly.
At every moment.
Yeah. And it's like I try to be polite, especially like when I go places, and sometimes like maybe too polite, where it's like, oh, you're mistaking my kindness for weakness. Like, all right, now I'm gonna have
No, yeah. We all have those roles.
Exactly.
We all have those roles.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's the lesson for the white belts sometimes. It's like,
Coach Phil says like, don't poke the bear, which makes a ton of sense. He's like, I'm being nice to you. He's like, but I don't have to be nice to you.
You start doing some of their stuff, and you start doing some of this stuff, and I'll let you know I can do that stuff too.
Yeah. So like early on, I like found very maybe I don't want to say like innovative ways, but like clever ways to like stay safe for a long period of time. Like I feel like I have pretty good defense and survival, but just being able to like work through some of those really awful positions and then, learn to be on top and learn to, start like being more offensive and not just like defensive the whole time. And again, I think that's it's interesting because like sometimes I feel more comfortable training with guys because I had like so many more years of experience where it feels like very unique and like rare still to like train with women. So when I go places, like I really try to make like a good effort to train with like as many of the girls, they're in the gym as possible because that, like you said, like that may be their first experience, like training with another girl or like, a higher level like female. So
there's a feeling of responsibility. I feel like you have of just like I'm in this really cool position that I've created for myself.
Yeah, but I also like love it too. Like I want to give them like that, really good experience of like, oh, like she didn't just try to kill me because like they're not going to gain anything from me just like trying to smash them or like myself being smashed. But
yeah. No, it's very your journey. The amount of time you've been doing this, where you're at right now, it's very admirable, and I'm very excited. You are our first female guest on 10PTX Chats.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, so thanks so much. Sponsors are 10PTX Apparel on Amazon. Drink Action with a K, coffee, turmeric and hemp product. We got other stuff. 10PTX for 15% off. 10PTX for 10% off on it. My book's at the451project.com. And then tell them where they can find it.
I am at 10 Planet Portland in Portland, Oregon. And you can find me on Instagram, I suppose. It's just Amanda, I think, _ Loewen, LOEWEN. I'm on Facebook, but not really. And that's about it.
Yeah, no one's really on Facebook anymore.
No one's on Facebook.
Yeah, except your grandparents.
That's right.
Yeah. Peace. Thanks for listening.
Guys.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.